Hey guys, it's Saga from TechWorks, and in this video, we are going to take a very detailed look at all the cameras on this Samsung Galaxy M31. I have had this phone for a few days, but because of the current outbreak situation, getting all the image and video samples took a bit longer than usual. But now as I have all the required samples, let's get started. It seems no budget smartphone is complete without having a quad camera setup. So as you would have guessed it, M31 also comes with a quad camera setup. Primary camera gets a 64 megapixel sensor with f1.8 aperture and a 26mm lens. Then there is a 8 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture and a 12mm ultra wide angle lens. Next up, there is a 5 megapixel sensor with f2.4 aperture and a macro lens. And finally, we get another 5 megapixel sensor with f2.2 aperture, and this one is used for sensing depth information for portrait shots. At the front, there is a 32 megapixel sensor with f2.4 aperture, and it gets a 26mm wide lens. Camera interface is pretty bare bones. You can swipe to the left or right to switch between modes, and you can switch between the normal and wide lens by tapping on these buttons. I think the M31 is a bit slower while switching between these lenses. Now before we move on to the image and video samples, if you are new to this channel or if you still haven't subscribed, please take a few moments to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way, YouTube makes sure you are notified as a new video goes live on this channel. Let us begin with the daytime images. These 16 megapixel images seem to have plenty of details. It seems to handle the colors and exposure really well even in these tricky lighting conditions. If we zoom in on these shots, edges of the objects seem to be sharp enough, but there seem to be a lot of noise in the darker parts even in these lighting conditions. Of course, you can only see this if you zoom in a lot, otherwise these images turned out to be good enough. Colors are a bit oversaturated like we have come to expect from Samsung smartphones, but I still think they look good enough, and if you like to upload these images straight to your social media accounts, colors are bound to catch anyone's attention, so I think these saturated colors serve their purpose. I found the HDR mode on the M31 to be very impressive. Here are images shot with and without the HDR mode compared side by side. You can straight away see how much better the image with the HDR mode looks. It brought up so much more details from the darker leaves and also managed to bring back some details from the bright sky, making the overall colors look so much better compared to the non-HDR shot. Looking at these results, I left the HDR mode on auto for all of my shots. It doesn't matter if you're capturing these images indoors or outdoors, this phone did amazingly well with the dynamic range. I think this Galaxy M31 captures the best dynamic range for smartphones starting at 15,000 rupees. These have all been 16 megapixel images that use pixel binning. But if you want, you can switch to the 64 megapixel mode to capture high resolution images. If we zoom in a bit, we see a clear difference between these images. 64 megapixel images are much sharper and show a lot more details than the 16 megapixel ones. So if you are trying to capture landscapes or architecture, you should switch to the 64 megapixel mode to capture more details. The biggest downside of shooting in this mode is that the dynamic range, contrast and colors are not that great. If there are a lot of dark or bright areas in your scene, shooting in the 64 megapixel mode might make you miss out on the details in those parts. These high resolution images also take 3 to 4 times more storage space, so as I said, I like to use this mode only while trying to capture landscapes or architecture. Wide lens on the M31 is a millimeter wider than most other budget smartphones, so it lets you get even more of the scene in your shot. To my surprise, there is a very little difference between the white balance and the color temperature of both these lenses, and this wide camera is just as amazing at handling the dynamic range as the primary one. So Samsung seems to have put some thought and work behind this, which is rare when it comes to budget smartphones. And that's the reason this is one of the few phones where I actually enjoyed using the wide lens. Before we move on to the close-up and macro shots, here is a quick focusing speed test of the primary camera. It takes some time to change the focus from near to far object, but I like that the change in focus is smooth and not abrupt like on most of the other smartphones in this price range. I would appreciate if Samsung could try and make it focus a bit faster with one of the future software updates. Once the camera sets the focus, close-up shots look really good. This large sensor means the plane of focus is very thin, but it also means that you get a good amount of optical blur to the background of these close-up shots. The subject is also nice and sharp, and the overall colors look good even in indoor lighting conditions. If you want to get even closer to your subject, switch to the macro lens and it will let you take macro shots like this. As good as these macro shots look, it is difficult to get the subject in perfect sharp focus. There is no autofocus on this sensor, so you will have to move the phone closer or away from the subject, and based on what you see on the screen, have to be the judge of whether the subject is in focus or not. Coming to the portrait shots, Samsung calls this mode live focus. It is just amazing how good these budget smartphones have got at taking these shots. They seem to be putting the dedicated depth sensor to some serious work. Look at how well the M31 detects the edges and separates the subject from its background. And it does all of this while keeping the skin tones and overall colors looking good. Many of the budget smartphones capture less details in the actual subject, but that doesn't seem to be the case with the M31. The faces and overall subjects are sharp and have a lot of details in them. This is continued when we take portrait shots of objects. Subject has a lot of details and the edge detection is on point even if the subject has complex edges, and no matter how busy the background is, it is separated very well and is nicely blurred out. If I am being honest, I take over 80% of my shots in portrait mode. So the portrait mode performance of any smartphone is one of the most important factors for me while choosing a smartphone. And I think the M31 is proving to be one of the best in this area. Moving to indoor, artificial and low lighting conditions. As we saw in my previous video, the Note 9 Pro was really bad as the light went down. I just hope that the M31 does better than that. It seems to be doing a good job in these indoor lighting conditions. There is some noise in the image and the edges of the objects don't seem to be as sharp as they appeared in bright light. But the overall image still looks good and usable. We start seeing more and more noise as we get into even lower lighting conditions. To make up for this, there is night mode. For some reason, images that we capture in this night mode are zoomed in. This mode doesn't make a very big difference, but it certainly makes the images a bit brighter and handles the exposure from light in a much better way. There is still a lot of noise in these night mode images, and I don't like that this mode zooms in on all of the shots. I would say the M31 can get decent shots if you're in artificially lit areas like this, but for anything lower than this, I wouldn't recommend using it. That brings us to the front-facing camera. There is a massive 32 megapixel selfie camera on this phone. Selfies look good and there are enough details in them. Skin tones are preserved, but the details are a bit softer even when the beauty mode is turned off. We kind of expect some level of skin smoothing from Samsung by now, and I'm sure most people getting this phone won't mind it. For portrait shots, edge detection is not as good as it is from the rear camera, but it still takes good images nevertheless. And even if you have multiple people in the shot, it does well to keep both of them in focus. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the Samsung Galaxy M31. You can see how it is handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I am walking around with it. 4K 30fps videos don't get any kind of stabilization. But the good thing is, these videos are not overly saturated like the 4K 30fps videos from some of the other budget smartphones. 1080p 30fps videos are electronically stabilized. While these videos are not as detailed as the 4K ones, the electronic stabilization makes them look better and gives them an upper edge. It can shoot high frame rate videos in 720p resolution. There should be plenty of light while you are shooting these kind of videos, or else there will be a lot of noise in them. There is also an option to shoot super slow motion videos, and depending on what you are shooting, it can look really cool. After looking at all these image and video samples, I think the cameras on the Galaxy M31 have got real potential. Its daylight images are crisp and sharp, and I think it shows the best dynamic range among all the budget smartphones. The wide camera is really well tuned to capture the same white balance and color temperature as the primary one. The macro camera could see some help while focusing, so I would say that is not one of the best features of this phone. But then it comes back to being a good camera with the amazing portrait shots. Low light photography should be limited to indoors and artificial lighting conditions, and the video performance is pretty much at par with any of the other budget smartphones in this price range. Overall, for being priced at just under 15,000 rupees, I think the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy M31 are going to give a very tough competition to the ones on the Redmi Note 9 Pro and the Realme 6 Pro. You guys saw over 75 image and video samples in this video. After looking at all of them, what do you guys think about the cameras on this phone? Let me know in the comments. In the coming days, if I am able to get enough outdoor images and video samples, I will be comparing the cameras on this phone with the ones on the Redmi Note 9 Pro and the Poco X2. So make sure you have turned on the notifications for this channel. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.